Hi, I'm Steve Sample with Bama Talk. Don't miss a single episode of Bama Talk Show, available now on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app, and on the web at bigbrainsmedia.com.
This is your Weather Xtreme video for Tuesday, July the 30th. I'm meteorologist Brian Peters. Thanks for tuning in. Skycam Network this morning showing some high cirrus clouds as we look out over the Trussville Skycam, and a little bit of low clouds down at the Dauphin Island Skycam on the Gulf Coast, but it looks like, except for maybe an isolated shower or two, the beach will be in pretty good shape. The front that brought some drier air into north and central Alabama is located along South Alabama. We'll show that on the dew point differences in just a minute, and we expect that front to come back northward as a warm front. In the meantime, the two ridges, one to our west and one to our east, are kind of grasping hands, and that's influencing us. We should warm up today. I think for the most part, most spots will get into the lower 90s. Only the fourth time this month, by the way. The pattern doesn't stay that way long. We'll get to that in the GFS in just a minute. There's the surface observations, and you can see the lower 70 dew points on South Alabama, while we're in the lower 60s for the most part across the Tennessee River Valley. So certainly a nice drier day, and we certainly saw that yesterday. By the way, I wanted to note this is the sounding from the Shelby County Airport from last night, and certainly a much drier sounding, and that was responsible for the clouds not being around too much. Watching a large cluster of thunderstorms across northern Arkansas and southern Missouri that produced some flash flooding back in Kansas overnight last night. But that looks like, because of the flow being mostly from west to east up there, that it won't get down our way, but it will certainly be sending some clouds across the area. The focus for precipitation is going to be across the Ohio River Valley for the next 5 days, as we see a number of waves that kind of move along the kind of the weak diffuse front that's across that area. Storm Prediction Center outlooking a slight risk for severe storms across parts of North Dakota and a large part of South Dakota. We've got a couple of C-text areas, one in South Carolina and one in Oklahoma. For day 2, we don't have any slight risk exactly, but we do have several C-text areas that are being watched, one over the southern Appalachians, one over western Kansas, and one over Iowa. Tropics remain fairly quiet. We're still watching the concentrated remains of Dorian as it proceeds westward, but still doesn't look like it's likely to redevelop into anything. The 060 GFS model run, and there's a surface map for today, and you can see that large cluster of thunderstorms in Missouri. And then in the upper atmosphere, we see the two ridges more or less grasping hands as it kind of makes its influence felt across the Gulf Coast area, and that will raise height somewhat. So once again, I think we'll see a fairly warm day across the southeastern U.S. and across central Alabama. That ridging doesn't stay long, as we once again see the development of trough over the eastern half of the country on Wednesday, and that should increase our shower chances on Wednesday with a good deal of clouds. I think we drop back to the upper 80s once again. The upper trough becomes once again fairly firmly established over the eastern half of the country on Thursday, and so that will keep us somewhat unsettled. It looks like another weak front could pass through, and we're seeing that trough on Friday. But on Friday, it looks like the weak front will sag down into South Alabama. Once again, front, but not really cold air. It's going to be, once again, just slightly drier air. So that should be more unsettled down along the Gulf Coast and a little drier up here. By Saturday, as we head into the weekend, the ridge is nudging in just ever so slightly, but notice the strong shortwave that's depicted there in northeastern Nebraska, and that could be responsible for some MCSs. We'll have to be watching that. We see one of those on Sunday in the flow over Kentucky, and the GFS certainly showing that coming up on the surface map with a large cluster of thunderstorms over Kentucky. Now, will it be exactly there? No, we're going to have to watch that. We're not quite into voodoo country, but we're getting out to the end of the period, so we'll have to watch for the development of MCSs and in that northwesterly flow coming down our way. By Monday, as we get into next week, we once again see that the ridge is kind of pushing in, but we're seeing a couple of strong short waves move into the Great Lakes, and those should help once again to more or less nudge that ridge just ever so slightly back to the west as we see the trough develop. And when we get out into voodoo country, once again, the GFS still showing a fairly deep trough over the eastern half of the country with a fairly deep closed low over south central Canada. And if that pattern comes true, then we will definitely be seeing a front. Now, I say definitely, but it is voodoo country, so we can't count on it 100%. It might change in the next one, but this is the 9th of August, and that would certainly mean with that kind of pattern that we would be dealing with a front coming down, and perhaps even, not just drier air, but perhaps even maybe some cooler air. Well, that'll do it for the Weather Xtreme video for today. I hope that you enjoy the day. Expect to post the next one first thing on Wednesday morning. In the meantime, enjoy the day and Godspeed.
Thank you for trusting us to be your #1 source for news
in all of Central Alabama.
in back-to-back ratings periods.
More people watched ABC 3340
than any other station in Birmingham.